The great station hung in space like a metal moon. It spun slowly around the bright star at the center of the galaxy. Inside its massive halls, the most powerful beings in known space were gathering. They came from 14 different worlds, 14 different species that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. Ambassador HFY walked through the curved corridors on 6 thin legs. His blue skin sparkled under the bright lights. Behind him floated 3 other members of the Zentari collective, their robes moving in the artificial wind. They were going to the emergency meeting that would decide the fate of a troublesome young species, the humans. HFY remembered when the first human ships had appeared 50 years ago. Small, crude vessels that barely managed to cross between star systems. The council had laughed, another young race trying to reach for the stars too early. They would learn their place soon enough, just like all the others. But the humans had not learned their place. The great meeting hall was already full when HFY arrived. Massive beings from the rock world of Thane sat like living mountains. The gas breathers from the outer systems floated in their clear bubbles. The ancient hierarchy representatives stood perfectly still, their metal bodies reflecting the light from 1,000 screens. Above them all, a huge display showed a map of the galaxy. Red dots marked human colonies. There were too many red dots. 847 systems, announced Council Speaker Mothtar, her voice echoing through translation devices into every language present. In 50 years, the humans have claimed more territory than any species in recorded history. A low rumble came from the Thane representatives. Their deep voices shook the floor. They break the old laws, one said. No young race may claim more than 500 systems without our permission. HFY stepped forward. As the primary investigator of human expansion, he had studied these creatures more than anyone else in the room. Honored Council, he began. The humans are indeed growing faster than expected. But they are still primitive. Their largest ships are smaller than our cargo vessels. Their weapons are centuries behind our technology, yet they spread like a disease, hissed Representative Sithek from the reptilian Esktar Empire. Each year they claim more worlds. Each year they grow stronger. If we wait longer, they may become a real threat. The council speaker raised one hand for silence. The decision has been made. We have voted. The humans will be given our standard ultimatum. They must stop their expansion immediately. They must limit themselves to their current territory. They must accept council oversight of all future activities. And if they refuse, ask someone from the back. They will not refuse, HFY said confidently. No young species ever refuses. They may argue. They may ask for more time. But in the end, they always accept our terms. The alternative is too terrible to consider. The council speaker nodded. HFY will deliver the message personally. The humans have 72 standard hours to respond. After that, we will take action to enforce our will. As the meeting ended, HFY felt satisfied. This was routine business. The humans would protest, maybe even threaten war, but they would submit. They had no choice. The council fleet was vast beyond imagination. Their technology was proven across millennia of conquest. The humans were children playing with toys. 3 hours later, HFY stood in the communication chamber of his personal ship. The quantum transmitter hummed with power as it prepared to send his message across the galaxy to Earth. He had given this speech dozens of times, to dozens of species. The words came easily. People of Earth, he began, his image being recorded for transmission. I am Ambassador HFY of the Galactic Hegemony Council. Your species has grown beyond the boundaries set by galactic law. You have claimed more worlds than your age, and development allows. This must stop immediately. He paused to let the words sink in. Young species always needed time to understand their situation. You have 72 standard hours to accept council oversight. You must cease all expansion beyond your current 847 systems. You must allow council inspectors to monitor your activities. You must submit to our authority in all matters of galactic importance. Another pause. Now came the threat that always worked. If you refuse these terms, The Council will take action to protect galactic stability. We have 1,000 ships for every one of yours. We have weapons that can destroy entire star systems. We have ruled this galaxy since before your world had life on it. Do not test our patience." The message ended. Vex High sent it immediately toward human space. It would take several hours to reach Earth, even through the fastest communication channels. The reply would take just as long to return. By this time tomorrow, the human problem would be solved. As his ship prepared to return to the Council station, Vex High looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the humans were probably in emergency meetings, arguing about what to do. Some would want to fight, others would want to negotiate. In the end, wisdom would win. It always did. The galaxy was too big for any one young species to change. The Council had learned this truth over thousands of years. They had faced hundreds of ambitious races. All had eventually accepted their place in the great order of things. The humans would be no different. Vex High settled into his rest chamber, confident that when he woke, the human crisis would be moving toward its inevitable conclusion. The Council had spoken. The universe would listen, but in the deep space between the spiral arms of the galaxy, where no Council sensors reached, something was already moving. Thousands of ships, dark and silent, carrying the hopes and dreams of an entire species toward a destination that the Council could not even imagine. The countdown had begun, but not the countdown Vex High expected. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Meridian, watching the stars through the wide viewing port. Her ship was humanity's pride, the largest and most advanced vessel in the fleet. At least, that was what the galaxy believed. The truth was much more complicated. The communication alert sounded softly. Lieutenant Torres at the communications station looked up with a frown. "Captain, we're receiving a priority transmission from Council Space. It's marked as an official ultimatum." Sarah felt her heart skip a beat, but her face remained calm. She had been expecting this message for months. "Put it on my private screen," she ordered. As Ambassador Vex High's image appeared and began speaking, Sarah listened with growing certainty. The time had come. Everything they had prepared for, everything they had built in secret, was about to be tested. When the message ended, Sarah closed the screen and walked to her command chair. To her crew, she appeared to be thinking carefully about this unexpected demand. In reality, she was remembering the secret briefing she had received 6 months ago. "The Council will eventually move against us," Admiral Morrison had said during that classified meeting on Luna Station. "Our expansion rate has frightened them. When they act, we'll have perhaps 3 days to complete the Aurora Protocol." Aurora Protocol. Even now, just thinking about it made Sarah's hands shake slightly. It was the most ambitious plan in human history. The most dangerous. The most necessary. "Lieutenant Torres," she said carefully, "send a coded message to Luna Command. Tell them the gardeners are concerned about the roses." Torres nodded and began typing. To anyone monitoring human communications, it would look like a routine agricultural report. The Council's translation systems would not even flag it as important. But on Luna Station, Admiral Morrison received those words and immediately understood their meaning. Within minutes, similar coded messages were racing across human space to every major colony, every fleet commander, every secret facility that had been built for this moment. The greatest evacuation in galactic history was about to begin. Commander Lisa Park received her orders while inspecting the mining facilities on Kepler 438b. The message came through normal channels, disguised as updated safety protocols. But when she read the hidden meaning, she felt her stomach drop. "All personnel to emergency stations," she announced over the colony's communication system. "We have a Code 7 industrial accident. Begin full evacuation procedures immediately." Her colonists moved with practiced efficiency. They had drilled for this moment hundreds of times, though most believed they were practicing for real mining disasters. Within 2 hours, every human on the planet was aboard transport ships. The ships lifted off, carrying what appeared to be standard evacuation supplies. In reality, Each transport was packed with compressed equipment, genetic samples, and manufacturing devices. The mining accident was actually the completion of a 30-year project to strip the planet of every useful resource, while making it look like normal mining operations. Similar scenes played out across human space. On New Shanghai, the annual planetary health inspection began early. Every citizen reported to medical centers for routine checkups, and somehow never returned to their homes. On Kepler 442c, a communication system upgrade required the temporary relocation of the entire population to orbital stations. The Council's monitoring posts recorded all this activity but saw nothing suspicious. Humans were always having emergencies, always reorganizing their colonies, always moving people around for various reasons. The energy signatures from human worlds remained normal. Communication traffic stayed within expected patterns. They had no idea that the normal energy signatures were being faked by automated systems. They did not know that the communication traffic was mostly pre-recorded messages being broadcast by computer programs. They could not see that every major human installation was actually empty, running on automatic systems while the real population gathered in secret locations throughout space. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the colony administrator on Ross 128b, watched the last transport ship disappear into hyperspace. Her world now contained only maintenance robots and computer systems. In 6 hours, those systems would begin broadcasting fake life signs to make it appear that 50,000 humans still lived and worked on the planet. She activated her personal communicator. "This is Ross 128b. Package delivered. Garden is ready for new tenants." Across human space, similar reports flooded into Admiral Morrison's command center. The numbers were incredible. In less than 18 hours, 12,847 ships had been loaded with the complete population and resources of 847 star systems. Not just the people, but the animals, the plants, the genetic banks, the manufacturing equipment, the computer cores, the art collections, everything that made human civilization what it was. The ships themselves were another secret the Council had never discovered. Each one looked like a standard human vessel from the outside. Inside, they were marvels of engineering that pushed the boundaries of known physics. Hidden within their hulls were drives that could cross not just between star systems, but between entire galaxies. Captain Chen received her final orders as the Meridian reached the designated rally point in deep space. Around her, thousands of other ships were appearing from hyperspace, their hulls dark to avoid detection. Cargo vessels, colony ships, military cruisers, research stations, mining platforms, even the great orbital cities that had once surrounded Earth's moon. "All ships report ready," Lieutenant Torres announced. "Total population count: 4,700,000,000 humans. All genetic banks secured. All cultural archives transferred. All manufacturing capabilities operational." Sarah nodded. They had done it. In the time it would take the Council to finish their morning meetings, humanity had packed up their entire civilization and prepared to leave the galaxy forever. She opened a channel to Admiral Morrison aboard the command ship. "Admiral, this is Captain Chen. The fleet is assembled and ready for departure." Morrison's voice came back calm and steady. "Understood, Captain. We'll wait for the Council's deadline to expire. Let them think they're being reasonable. When they realize what we've done, we'll already be too far away to follow." The greatest migration in galactic history hung invisible in the space between worlds, waiting for the moment when humanity would say goodbye to their first home forever. 30 years earlier, Dr. Elias Kovac had been just another human scientist exploring the ruins on Kepler 442c. The dead world was covered with the remains of an ancient civilization that had vanished millions of years before humans even existed. Most researchers found only broken stones and faded metal. But Elias found something that changed everything. Deep beneath the largest ruined city, his team discovered a chamber filled with mathematical symbols carved into walls of pure crystal. The symbols glowed faintly when exposed to light, and they seemed to show patterns that hurt the mind to look at directly. Other scientists called the chamber interesting, but useless. The symbols made no sense according to any known physics. Elias spent 3 years studying those symbols alone in the dark chamber. He missed meals, forgot to sleep, and ignored messages from Earth. The other researchers thought he had gone a little crazy. Perhaps he had, but in his madness, he began to see something that no one else could understand. The symbols were not just mathematics, they were instructions. A manual for technology that could fold space and time like paper. The fundamental error, Elias wrote in his secret journal, is believing that space is empty. It's not empty at all. It's full of layers, like sheets of cloth stacked on top of each other. Normal hyperspace travel moves along one layer. These symbols show how to step between layers. It took him another 5 years to build his first test device, a metal cube the size of his fist that could make small objects disappear from one place and appear in another. Not teleportation as humans understood it, but something far more remarkable. The objects traveled through spaces that existed between the normal dimensions of reality. When he demonstrated the device to Admiral Morrison, the military implications became clear immediately. If objects could step between layers of space, then ships could too, not just to other star systems, but to other galaxies entirely. How far could a ship travel using this technology? Morrison had asked. Distance becomes meaningless, Elias explained. A ship using this drive could cross to the Andromeda Galaxy as easily as flying from Earth to Mars. The energy requirements are enormous, but the travel time would be the same, regardless of the destination. Morrison stared at the small device for a long time. Doctor, I need you to do 2 things. First, scale this up to ship size. Second, never tell anyone outside this room that this technology exists. The next 15 years had been a whirlwind of secret development. Hidden research stations in empty space, disguised as asteroid mining operations. Dummy corporations that bought materials for industrial projects. Scientists recruited from universities who thought they were working on improved hyperspace engines. The breakthrough came when Dr. Sarah Okafor solved the power problem. The Nexus drive, as it came to be called, needed energy equivalent to a small star to operate. Normal fusion reactors were not nearly powerful enough, but Sarah discovered how to build miniaturized stellar cores, artificial stars the size of a house that could power anything humans could imagine. We're not just building better ships, she explained to the secret development team. We're building ships that could power entire planets if needed. Each stellar core was carefully disguised as a standard fusion reactor. To outside observers, human ships appeared to be using normal technology. Just larger amounts of it. The Council's sensors detected powerful energy signatures, but they matched exactly what improved fusion reactors should produce. Meanwhile, the Nexus drive itself was hidden within the normal hyperspace engine compartments of human ships. From the outside, it looked like slightly improved human technology. Council inspectors who occasionally visited human vessels saw exactly what they expected to see. Crude, but functional engineering that was centuries behind Council standards. They never realized they were looking at technology that surpassed their own capabilities by thousands of years. The first full-scale test happened in complete secrecy. The test ship, a modified cargo vessel called the Pioneer, jumped from the edge of human space to the Magellanic Clouds in less than an hour. The same journey using normal hyperspace would have taken decades. Captain Rodriguez, the test pilot, reported back with amazement. The drive works perfectly. We could reach any galaxy visible from here. The universe just became much smaller. But the tests also revealed a darker truth. The ancient symbols on Kepler 442c had included warnings. The civilization that built this technology had used it to escape something terrible. Their records, translated bit by bit over years of careful study, told a story of conflict with a galactic empire that demanded submission. They chose exile over slavery, Elias wrote in his final report. They used the Nexus drive to flee to another galaxy entirely, leaving their home behind forever. Perhaps they knew that someday, another young species would face the same choice. By the time Ambassador Vex High delivered the Council's ultimatum, humanity was ready. Every major human vessel had been equipped with hidden Nexus drive capability. Stellar cores powered their engines. Secret navigation charts marked safe routes to distant galaxies where life-supporting worlds waited to be colonized. The hardest part had been keeping the secret. Thousands of humans knew pieces of the truth, but only a few dozen knew the complete picture. The compartmentalization was so complete that even Admiral Morrison's staff believed they were just planning improved colony ships, not preparing for the greatest journey in galactic history. Dr. Kovac, now elderly but still sharp, made his final inspection of the drives aboard the fleet flagship. Each massive engine was a work of art, combining human engineering with alien mathematics in ways that should have been impossible. "They left us the key to freedom," he told Admiral Morrison, as they stood in the engine room. "All we had to do was be brave enough to use it." Outside the ship, the assembled human fleet waited in the darkness between stars. 12,000 vessels powered by artificial stars, equipped with drives that could step between dimensions, carrying an entire civilization toward a new home that no council force could ever reach. The ancient warning from Kepler 442c echoed in Elias's memory. When the great powers demand submission, the wise choose departure. Humanity was about to prove that some species would rather seek new worlds than accept chains, no matter how golden those chains might appear. The 72 hours passed slowly for Ambassador Vex High. He spent the time reviewing files about other young species that had challenged the Council over the centuries. Each story ended the same way: initial defiance, desperate negotiations, and finally reluctant acceptance of Council authority. The Kethron Empire had tried to build a fleet to challenge Council forces. They were now peaceful merchants limited to 50 systems. The Vortaki Confederation had attempted to form alliances with other young species. They now served as agricultural suppliers for older civilizations. The pattern never changed. When the deadline arrived, Vex High felt confident as he activated the communication system. He would receive either a message of surrender or a request for negotiations. Either way, the human problem would soon be resolved. The transmission from Earth began normally. President Elena Vasquez appeared on screen, standing behind her official podium in the United Nations building. She looked calm and dignified, exactly as Vex High expected from a leader about to surrender her people's independence. Honored members of the Galactic Hegemony Council, President Vasquez began. "We have carefully considered your ultimatum. After much discussion, we have reached a unanimous decision regarding our future relationship with your organization." Vex High leaned forward slightly. "Here it comes," he thought. The standard speech about how humans wanted to work with the Council, how they understood their place in galactic society, how they would accept limitations on their expansion. "We have concluded," the President continued, "that coexistence under your proposed terms is impossible. Humanity cannot accept restrictions that would prevent us from reaching our full potential among the stars." I. Vex High's eyes widened. Defiance? From a species that had no chance of victory? This was unexpected, but not unheard of. Some young races chose to make dramatic speeches before surrendering. It was probably for the benefit of their own people, to make the eventual submission seem more dignified. But President Vasquez was still speaking. "Therefore, we have chosen to exercise our fundamental right, as a free species, to seek our destiny elsewhere. As I speak these words, humanity is departing Council space forever." The statement was so absurd that Vex High almost laughed. Departing? Where could an entire species go? They had 847 systems scattered across their local spiral arm. Even if they abandoned their outer colonies, millions of humans lived on their core worlds. They couldn't just leave. Then, the camera angle changed, and Vex High felt his blood turn cold. President Vasquez was not standing in a busy government building. She was standing in ruins. The walls behind her were cracked and empty. Debris covered the floor. The famous United Nations Assembly Hall, where thousands of diplomats should have been arguing about the Council's demands, was completely abandoned. Every human settlement, every human vessel, every human citizen has departed your jurisdiction, the President explained as the camera panned across the desolate chamber. "We leave behind our former worlds in the hope that other species might find them useful for their own purposes." Vex High stared at the screen in growing horror. This was impossible. The evacuation of an entire civilization would require thousands of ships, months of preparation, resources beyond imagination. The Council's monitoring stations would have detected such massive movement immediately. "We also leave you this gift," President Vasquez continued. The image shifted to show vast data archives stacked in the empty building. The complete record of our technological development, our cultural achievements, our historical experiences. Perhaps future civilizations will benefit from studying both our successes and our failures. The transmission paused, and coordinates appeared on the screen. Not addresses in human space, but locations scattered throughout the galaxy. The President's voice returned as the coordinates faded. "The coordinates you have just received will lead you to additional gifts, technologies that may interest your scientists, archaeological discoveries that may enlighten your historians, mathematical principles that may challenge your understanding of the universe itself." Vex-High was already accessing those coordinates, sending emergency signals to Council science vessels. What he found at the first location made his heart stop beating. A complete Nexus drive facility, shut down but intact. Technical specifications that showed travel capabilities beyond anything the Council possessed. Test results proving that humans could cross between galaxies in hours rather than millennia. "How?" he whispered to his empty command chamber. "How did they develop this without our knowledge?" The President's message was ending. "We bear no ill will toward the Council or its member species. Your civilizations are ancient and wise, and you have brought stability to this galaxy for countless ages, but humanity must walk its own path among the stars, even if that path leads beyond your reach." She paused, and for the first time, she smiled slightly. "Perhaps someday, when both our peoples have grown and learned more about the universe, we will meet again as equals. Until then, we bid you farewell." The transmission ended, leaving Vex-High staring at a blank screen. Around him, his ship's computers were already processing reports from across human space. Every monitoring station was confirming the impossible. Human space was empty, not abandoned in panic, not destroyed by war, but carefully evacuated. The cities were intact but silent. The orbital stations continued functioning under automated control. The industrial facilities were shut down but undamaged. Even the defensive platforms remained operational, their weapons powered down but ready. Emergency signals flooded in from Council representatives throughout the galaxy. The coordinates humanity had provided led to a dozen technological treasures that revolutionized everything the Council thought they knew about physics, engineering, and mathematics. But the most shocking discovery came from Admiral Keth Run's investigation of Earth itself. His security teams found something that shattered every assumption the Council had made about human capabilities. The entire planet was protected by a defense grid that could have destroyed our entire fleet, he reported to the Emergency Council session. "Their weapons technology is decades ahead of ours. Their ships could have fought us and won, but they chose to leave instead." Ambassador Vex-High sat in the Council chamber, surrounded by representatives from 14 species, all of them asking the same questions. How had the humans hidden such advanced technology? How had they evacuated an entire civilization without being detected? How had they developed the capability to travel between galaxies? And most disturbing of all, if humans possess such power, why had they chosen exodus over war? Council Speaker Mothtar called for order as angry voices filled the chamber. "The humans have done something that we believed was impossible," she announced. "They have removed themselves from our authority completely. They are now beyond our reach, beyond our influence, beyond our control." The implications hung heavy in the air. For the first time in galactic history, a species had simply left rather than submit to Council rule. They had not fought, had not negotiated, had not begged for mercy. They had quietly prepared for decades, and then vanished into the vast darkness between galaxies. Somewhere in that darkness, 12,000 human ships were carrying an entire civilization toward worlds that the Council could not even imagine. Powered by technology that made galactic distances irrelevant. The gardeners had been concerned about the roses, but the roses had already grown wings and flown away. Admiral Kethrune's flagship emerged from hyperspace above Earth, leading the largest Council investigation fleet ever assembled. 50 vessels from 7 different species, armed with the most advanced sensors in the galaxy. They came expecting to find humans hiding in bunkers or fleeing in stolen ships. Instead, they found something that challenged everything they thought they knew about the universe. Earth looked perfectly normal from orbit. The cities sparkled with lights. The orbital stations moved in their proper patterns. Communication signals traveled between the surface and space. Energy readings showed normal industrial activity. For a moment, Kethrun wondered if the whole evacuation story had been an elaborate trick. Then his science officer reported the truth. "Admiral, those signals are all automated. Computer programs. Talking to other computer programs. The energy readings are fake, generated by equipment designed to fool our sensors. There are no life signs anywhere on the planet." The first landing parties confirmed the impossible. New York, Tokyo, London, Mumbai. Every great human city stood empty but perfectly preserved. Traffic lights continued their cycles for vehicles that would never come. Automated systems maintained the power grids, the water supplies, the communication networks. But no human voices answered the landing team's calls. Captain Skirin, of the Reptilian Survey Corps, explored the abandoned United Nations building where President Vasquez had delivered her farewell message. Her team found meeting rooms set up for conferences that would never happen, documents left on desks as if their owners had simply stepped away for lunch and never returned. "They didn't run in panic," she reported to Admiral Kethrun. "This was planned down to the smallest detail. They left everything ready for whoever comes next." The data archives the humans had promised were real and incredible. Terabytes of information about human culture, history, science, and technology. But the most valuable files were the ones that showed how the evacuation had been possible. Dr. Vethkor, the Council's chief xenologist, spent days studying the human records. The story they told was humbling and terrifying. For 30 years, humanity had been developing technology in complete secrecy while appearing to be exactly what the Council expected, an ambitious but primitive young species. "They used our own assumptions against us," he explained to the emergency council session. "We expected them to be crude and straightforward, so they made sure that's all we saw. Their real research was hidden in projects that looked like normal industrial development. Their advanced ships were disguised as improved versions of basic designs." The Nexus Drive facilities scattered across former human space revealed the full scope of what the Council had missed. Each installation contained technology that could revolutionize galactic civilization, faster than light communication across infinite distances, energy sources that made stellar engineering trivial, manufacturing techniques that could build planets if needed. But the most sobering discovery came when Admiral Kethrun's teams investigated Earth's defensive systems. Hidden beneath major cities, disguised as subway tunnels and utility networks, lay a military infrastructure that could have held off the entire Council fleet. Their orbital defense platforms alone could have destroyed half our ships before we reached effective range, reported Admiral Kethrun's tactical officer. "The surface installations include weapons we can't even identify. They could have fought us and won easily, yet they had chosen to leave instead of fight." The investigation teams found similar patterns on every human world. Advanced technology hidden beneath facades of primitive equipment. Defense systems that could have protected entire sectors. Industrial capabilities that could have supported a war effort lasting centuries. Colony after colony told the same story. The humans had possessed the power to challenge the Council directly, but they had chosen exodus instead of conflict. Dr. Sarah Okafor's personal laboratory on Kepler 442c provided the final piece of the puzzle. Her research notes, left behind in neat files, explained how humanity had solved problems that Council scientists considered impossible. Miniaturized stellar cores, dimensional fold drives, reality manipulation on scales that hurt the mind to contemplate. One entry particularly stood out to Dr. Vethkor. "The Council assumes that young species must be inferior. This assumption blinds them to possibilities that don't fit their expectations. Sometimes the best way to grow strong is to appear weak until the moment of truth arrives." 3 months after the evacuation, Council Speaker Mothtar called a special assembly. Representatives from all 14 Council species gathered to hear the final report about humanity's departure. "The humans have accomplished something unprecedented," she began. "They have removed an entire civilization from our galaxy, while leaving no trace of their destination. Our best scientists estimate they could be anywhere within a sphere of 100 million light-years radius." The implications were staggering. Traditional hyperspace travel meant that even if the Council wanted to follow humanity, it would take thousands of years just to reach the nearest galaxies, and they had no idea which direction the humans had gone. "More disturbing," the speaker continued, "is what this tells us about our own assumptions. The humans developed technology that surpasses our capabilities, while we dismissed them as primitive. They planned for decades while we believed they were reacting to immediate pressures. They chose exile over war despite possessing the strength to defeat us." Ambassador Vexhai, now the subject of intense scrutiny for his role in underestimating humanity, made his final report to the assembly. His voice was quiet but clear. "I have studied every record we possess about human psychology, human culture, human motivations," he said. "One thing appears consistently throughout their history. When faced with oppression, they prefer freedom to safety. When given a choice between submission and exile, they choose exile. When offered the option between fighting and leaving, they often choose to leave." He paused, looking around the chamber at representatives of species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia. "But their records also show that when they are truly cornered, when they have no choice but to fight, they fight with a determination that destroys everything in their path. We are fortunate that they saw Exodus as an option." The final entry in the human archives came from Dr. Elias Kovac, the physicist who had discovered the Nexus drive technology. His words haunted every member of the Council who read them. "We leave this galaxy not in anger, but in hope. The stars are vast, and there is room for many different ways of life among them. Perhaps someday our descendants will meet the Council's descendants in some far corner of the universe, and they will greet each other as friends, rather than as rulers and subjects. The universe is much larger than any of us imagined. We go to explore it freely, without limits imposed by others' fears or our own. To future species who may face similar choices, remember that the cosmos holds infinite possibilities for those brave enough to seek them." As the Council session ended, the representatives dispersed to their home worlds, carrying news that would reshape galactic civilization. For the first time in recorded history, a species had simply left rather than accept the established order. Somewhere in the darkness between galaxies, humanity continued its journey toward new worlds and new possibilities, free from the weight of ancient authority. They had proven that even the oldest empires could not hold species that were determined to be free. The gardeners had discovered that some roses grow wings when they are ready to fly.